Hey, what's going on, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of the Fortified Life podcast, where we are passionate about developing a dependency on Jesus in the marketplace. I'm your host, Jason Davis, aka Mr. Fortify. Every week, we have the opportunity to bring on authors, speakers, coaches, CEOs, leaders of nonprofits who are also passionate about putting God back in business. And of course, ladies and gentlemen, it is no different this week. This is another special edition of our Tools and Resources series, a Tools and Resources episode. And I'm so excited for our guest today because he's got a brand new book and we are going to unpack it. Before we get into that, let me introduce you to him. Tim Novak is a John Maxwell certified executive leadership coach with over 30 years of experience in sales and business leadership. As a young entrepreneur, he started his own business and quickly became one of the highest performing salespeople in the organization. He grew into a leadership position where he oversaw sales and operations for a Fortune 500 organization with over 1,700 franchises nationwide. Tim believes in real leadership and lives out what it takes to achieve your full potential. Be all in, be real, be bold, as Tim says. Welcome to the Fortified Life, Tim Novak. Tim, what's going on, sir?
Jason, I am so excited to be here, man. It's an honor to be with you today and talk about leadership.
Yes, all things leadership. And folks, shout out to the Maxwell leadership community. That Tim and I are, I love what you said earlier offline, Tim, Maxwellians.
Yes, we are. Yes, and we work to Maxwell. That's for sure.
Yes. Absolutely. Well, Tim, I'm really excited to talk to you today because you have a brand new book out called Remarkable Influence. Be the one who stands out, builds trust, and rises faster than talent alone. Tim, I got to tell you, the title already has me locked in. So, what was the inspiration for writing this, and why write a book like that now?
Well, I tell you, I wrote the book now. The information isn't new. I've actually been speaking and using virtually everything within the book for years in everything
Mm,
that I've done as a leader. And what's really impressed me probably in the last 6 to 8 months is I've watched a lot of people that are super talented, but they kind of stay invisible within an organization, and not because they lack the skill, but because they lacked influence.
mm,
And so again, I've been thinking a lot about influence really doesn't have a lot to do with your title. It has everything with how you show up consistently. And when I think about my career and the things that you shared just a minute ago, I'm not that talented. I'm going to tell you, I'm not that talented of a guy, but some of the things that I am even learning and have been impressed on me as a leader have created so much influence that I wanted to share this message with people and help them understand, okay, how can I increase everything that I'm doing, influence, get more of what I want, be more of what I maybe I don't believe I could be. So that's why I wrote the book. And I'm super excited to talk to everyone about it because I believe all of us can increase our influence regardless of what we're doing.
mm. That's so good, Tim. And a key thing that you said that really stuck out is kind of this factor of people feeling invisible. There's a lot of talented people, but they lack influence. Tim, even in your own experience, is that kind of is that a tough realization to come to for some folks? Like, man, I'm really good at this. But I'm not getting ahead. And to maybe it's through someone like yourself, a coach or a book or a podcast, and they kind of hit that moment. Man, wow, influence was the difference.
Yeah.
Is that kind of a tough pill to swallow at times?
A lot of people I talk to, they don't talk about this, but
Mm,
the roles that they're in, they question their ability.
Mm.
This whole thing, and the word today is imposter syndrome. There are so many leaders that are in positions that, despite the role they're in, despite their pedigree, their experience, they still question whether they should be in that role, and are they really credible. They don't talk about it.
Hmm.
I hear about it when I'm in coaching relationships with leaders, or I get into one-on-one discussions, but it's real out there today. And I can say, even for myself, naturally I'm an introvert. I didn't have a lot of self-esteem when I was younger, but I have learned how to leverage influence. I've learned how to increase my ability to impact. And through that, it's given me more confidence,
Mm.
not as a poser, but as a practitioner
Ooh, that's
of
good.
those skills. So this book, I'm going to tell you right now, if you're listening and you go out and you say, I'm going to pick up this book, my challenge to you is, don't work to read through it as quickly as possible. It's more of a workbook
Mm.
where you can take a chapter, there's actions and application in every one of those chapters where you can just work on that, and you can work on refining that. And we'll talk a little bit about that, but I want to tell you, this book is not like a normal book where you're going to speed through it and go, "Oh, I got this and this." You can take your time as you go through this book and work through every one of these chapters, because there's applicable application in each one, and there's a way for you to be able to measure, where are you at when you read through this chapter. Okay, where's the gap? And then, what does success look like? What does influence look like in that specific area? So anyway, just a little bit about each piece of this book.
No, that's good, Tim. I got to tell you, Tim, you came right out the gate strong in this. And chapter one, halfway never wins. Why commitment, not dabbling, sets you apart. I mean, I don't know if there's a stronger way to set a foundation for that. What is it about? Commitment. We live in an age, Tim, where there's a lot of dabbling. People have one foot in, one foot out. Could be for
Yeah.
various reasons. But what made you start there? And I know these chapters build on
Yeah.
each other, but what made that be the starting point?
Great question. I learned about leadership after canceling a wedding that I'd been planning for 8 months.
Oh,
Now, let me paint the picture for you. She had the dress, she had the invitations. What did I have? I had cold feet.
mm,
I'd been hanging out with guys after work, doing what guys do, listening to them tell me, "Why do you want to screw up your life and do something stupid like get married? You'll never have any fun." And the more I
mm,
hung around them, the more I started thinking, these guys are right. So I met with my fiance at the time and gave her the "it's not you, it's me" speech.
mm,
And I canceled the wedding. And if you think she took it well, you'd be wrong. It was devastating for her and her family. We'd been dating for 3 years. I canceled the wedding. Now, within a few weeks, fast forward, I realized how stupid I was. So I called her up and did what any guy would do. I begged for forgiveness and suggested that we elope the next week. Now I can sell, okay? So
mm-hmm,
we got our marriage license. We pulled up at her parents' house to pack her bags and break the news to her parents that we were eloping. Now, let me just tell you, I wasn't really in good standing with her parents,
mm-hmm,
okay? And her dad set me down around the kitchen table before we left that night, and he asked me several questions I'll never forget. The first one was, will you put God first in your life?
mm,
Will you honor Julie with your life? And when you have children, will you raise them in a godly home? And when the guy wants a girl, what's he going to say? Yes, yes, and yes. And I mustered all the conviction that I could. So we got married on a Saturday night. We drove home on Sunday. Real romantic, right? No honeymoon.
Mm,
Within about 3 weeks, she called her dad and said, Dad, in fact, she said, Daddy, crying, I want an annulment. Tim's not the guy I thought I married.
mm,
I was still hanging out with those guys after work. Nothing had changed for me. She wanted an annulment. She's on the phone with her dad, and her dad said, You're not coming home. I'll call Tim.
mm,
And I'll never forget that call. He said, You remember when we were sitting around the kitchen table? He said, You're at a crossroads right now. In fact, he said, one road leads to success, the other road leads to default and failure. He said, I'm challenging you to put God first in your life, honor Julie with your life, and when you have children, raise them in a godly home. And I wasn't a person of faith at the time. And then he said 6 words I'll never forget. He said, I know you can do it.
mm,
That moment, his challenged me to get all in to my decisions, the things that I wanted, not what other people wanted for me. He challenged me to get real with who I was and not trying to be something or somebody that other people thought I should be. And he challenged me to be bold in living out my decisions, regardless of what the obstacles were going to happen. Had I not had that leader in my life that challenged me to get all in, to get real, to get bold, I wouldn't be on this podcast with you today, Jason.
mm,
So when people ask me, what's the difference between dabbling and all in? For me, it's not a little bit of a difference. It's a radical transformation that if I'm going to do anything in life, something even like this podcast, I'm going to get all in. I'm going to
mm,
find a way to exceed expectations in everything that I do. And quite frankly, that doesn't take a lot of talent,
mm.
but it does take more effort to make a bigger impact. So people ask me, what's it mean to be all in? You fully commit to everything that you're doing. It doesn't matter how basic it is.
Wow. Tim, that's powerful, man. I appreciate your transparency and man, what a lesson too to have someone sit you down and Tim talk about the grace of God. That he had every right to react very differently, especially when you think about dads and their daughters. So what a way to position it to say, hey, you're at a crossroads, and yet also say, I know you can do it. What an example.
Yeah, it was incredible. Now, I made a conscious decision in that moment to reverse course.
Mm,
Okay. I wasn't a person of faith, but I made a decision after that call. You know what? I'm going to, first of all, I had to stop seeing those people
yep.
those guys that I was hanging out with. Didn't mean that I couldn't have a relationship with them and be friends with them, but I had to change that if I was going to change who I was and get all into my decision. So I made a conscious decision to reverse course, get myself involved in a church. I didn't make an emotional decision. I made a conscious decision to reverse course. So over time, I made that decision to become a person of faith, to accept Christ, and then to, as my father in law challenged me to do, put God first, put Julie first, and raise my kids in a godly home.
Yeah, that
Those
is
six
huge.
words, I know you can do it. I hadn't had anybody believe in me.
Hmm.
That was
Wow.
powerful in my life.
My goodness. Tim, I think it highlights the example. I'm sure you've said something similar over the years, especially with the group of guys you're hanging out with. Influence is like on a spectrum. In a given day, you can be the influencer and you could find yourself as the influencee. And
Yes,
so, of course, day to day, moment to moment, you're making your own decisions, but you know, you're also, Tim, we've all heard a version of the you're the average of the closest 4 to 5 people you spend your time with. And you had a wake up call on, you know what? And when I'm hanging out with this group of people and ingesting their ideas and their values and their behaviors, I'm being influenced. I'm the influencee. But the trajectory of where you wanted to go and where your father-in-law challenged you to go, there was a misalignment. And so I like what John Max often says, there's deciding and then there's doing. And what you're essentially talking about, Tim, is yeah, not only did I make a decision, I actually did something about it.
exactly. Yeah, you're exactly right. John said the biggest gap we have is between what we know and what we do.
Yeah.
And that right, just that right there, you said it. Okay. If we if we can learn to say, I don't know, I'm just going to do,
Hmm.
because we think we know it all. We think we know that gap. Oh my gosh, it's powerful if we just take the steps. So
Hmm.
love that.
I can't help Tim but talk about the segue to chapter 2. We can't get through all the
Oh
chapters
yeah.
today,
Yeah.
but Tim, just again, chapter 2, burn the boats, remove the escape routes, and commit fully. And so I just seeing that, and folks, I'm telling you, you want to walk through this book, like Tim said, use it as a resource and a workbook because being all in, um, there are steps to it. And then now you're talking about um, when you mention metaphors and analogies like fire,
Yep.
Tim, that'll grab attention. So talk to me about chapter 2, burn the boats, remove the
Well,
escape routes, and
I
commit
don't know
full.
about you, Jason, but there's been times in my life where if I had an out, there's things that I, quite frankly, am uncomfortable doing, don't like to do. If I
Hmm.
have an out, there's been times where I found a way to get out of stuff that I knew, as we talked earlier about, I knew was really good for me that I should do, but I default to what's easy, to what's comfortable, to what the guys I used to hang out with said was fun.
Hmm.
So for me, if I find a way to say, okay, once I've made a decision about something, I'm going all in and I'm not going to look over my shoulder when things get challenging or when obstacles pop up.
Hmm.
Now, it doesn't matter what it might be. If you're an executive and you made a decision to be a board member within an organization, there's going to be challenges that come with that, and you've probably given something up to do that.
Hmm.
You got to go all in and fully commit and don't look over your shoulder and finding a way to get out of things.
Hmm.
So, again, for me, burning the boats is a reminder that's like, regardless of what I make a decision to do, I'm not going to question that decision. Now, does it mean all the decisions I make are going to be right? No. But if I fully commit to what I'm deciding to do, odds are things are going to work out better than they would have if I had option B.
Hmm.
So I don't know if that makes sense to you or not, but for me, burning the boats means regardless of what I'm doing, If I'm working in an organization, I've got a specific role I'm doing. If we made a decision to go in this direction as a team,
Mm,
change is happening so quickly in every organization. You have to fully commit. Doesn't mean you can't adjust. But if you're looking over your shoulder, the results aren't going to be nearly as good as they could be if you fully commit.
mm. That's good. I'm reminded of the book Atomic Habits, Tim, where James Clear he talks about in the habit loop. When you're trying to change a habit, you have to make the former thing difficult to do so that the new behavior or habit kicks in. So I love what you're saying. Your version of making it difficult is burn it up, baby.
Yeah.
Burn
Yeah,
it up.
absolutely. You don't rise to your goals. You fall, as James said, you fall to your habits.
Yeah.
And habits are not easy to change. And the older I get, I'm, as John Maxwell says, hey, the things I'm certain about today, there's a lot fewer of them, but I'm really certain. Well, the habits I've got today, there's probably a few of them that are like those things, man, they're hard to change. Now, it doesn't mean that I can't get some traction and make improvement in those areas. And that's part of increasing our influence is what are those things that might be negatively impacting who I am and the results that I want that I really
Mm,
need to work on making a priority. And that's why, hey, as you read through this book, maybe there's a chapter or two that really resonate with you
yeah.
that you need to dive deeper into because it's going to make a bigger impact on everything that you want and what you want to leave behind when you're not here.
Oh, that's good. That's getting into legacy territory. That's
Hmm.
good. Tim, that reminds me, and I'm jumping around here a little bit, but in the final chapter, because this is something that you mentioned earlier, a lot of people don't like to talk about this subject. They
Yes.
reveal it in a coaching session privately or, a come to Jesus moment. But speaking up and standing out, turning your voice into influence. And I love one of the subsections you had is why people stay silent. Because, Tim, we're making changes. We're not just deciding, we're trying to be remarkable. But then now comes the time. Maybe I disagree with someone. Maybe I don't agree with what's happening. Maybe I have feedback that can help shape the culture and carry forward the mission. But now it's time for me to say something. So talk to us about that
Yeah.
chapter.
Well, one of the things I talk about in the book is, values and our, communication styles. Some of us
Mm,
don't like conflict and we don't like
mm,
to talk about things that are difficult. In fact, we will just keep our mouth shut and we'll agree even when we disagree. Now, if that resonates with you, right? I think statistically, depending on the assessment that you're using within your organization, the majority of people might have difficulty communicating their concern because they
mm,
don't want to cause a problem. They don't want to make people feel bad. They want people to like them. You can communicate if you learn how to voice your concern without making people feel bad. We
mm,
all have a voice, okay? Now, a lot of us think what we have to say doesn't matter. It wouldn't matter. And as a true introvert, and I'm speaking to the crowd here, I'm someone that I'm a bit of a people pleaser. And there have been times in my life where I didn't speak up when I should have.
mm,
And what that gives people is false harmony. Now, for me, I can't change the way I feel. If I'm uncomfortable, talking about difficult things, whether it's someone's given me feedback and I want to share how I feel about that, or I'm the one giving feedback and it's uncomfortable for me to give difficult feedback. If I think about things like I have a responsibility to people, but not for them, what that
Mm.
means is I have a responsibility. Regardless of whether I'm a father, I'm a grandfather, I'm a leader within an organization, I'm a frontline customer service person, I have a responsibility to people to talk about maybe some of the difficult things.
Mm.
Now, I'm not responsible for what they do with that. Now, that doesn't mean that I have a responsibility to talk poorly to someone or make them feel like I don't care about them, but I do have a responsibility to them to share what I'm thinking, whether it influences them one way or not. Now, one of the things that I would hope in this chapter is people begin to think about that. Okay, I have a responsibility to, not for. It means I can feel uncomfortable about sharing something that's uncomfortable. But you know what? As a leader and to truly influence others, I have a responsibility to you, Jason, to share things that I might be observing or things that I think would benefit us as an organization if we're working together. So for
Mm.
me, again, it kind of goes back to I made a logical decision to reverse course, not an emotional decision. And I think a lot of times we make decisions based on emotion. And what I'm even learning today is that if I make a decision based on emotion, that fades. That emotion fades over time. But if I make a conscious decision, that's going to have a lasting impact on me. And I would think on others as well. So if that's you and you're like, okay, I need help in this area, well, hey, pick up the book, read that chapter, dive into that, think into, okay, what is it? What is it that I need to apply? What would that look like? And then maybe you need some accountability.
Yeah.
One of the things I learned from one of my mentors at Maxwell Leadership, and I'll share this with you quick, Jason, is your podcast, you're making an impact on people, the listeners. You are creating light bulb moments. And hopefully during our session today, we've created some light bulb moments for the listeners
Mhm.
where they're, oh, yeah, I hadn't thought about that, right? Well, if all we do is create light bulb moments, then we're going to go away from this and go, well, what did I remember about that? Well, a guy told a great story about his father-in-law and, hey, he got all in, all this stuff. If there's no action defined, we can't go from a moment to movement.
Mm.
And your podcast is okay, we want to create some moments here, but we also want to get movement by growth. How can you impact that? Well, unless there's action tied to it, it's just a moment. Now, I don't know about you. I can create a lot of action, as James Clear says, habits, right? I can create an action to help me with a habit, but that doesn't mean I'm going to do it.
Mm.
If I have accountability, I can go from a moment to movement to momentum.
Mm.
So in this book, my challenge to you is, okay, go through it, pick a couple of chapters, define what the action looks like, and then share it with someone to say, hey, you know what? One of the things I'm working on is to really define my top values and live those out without telling people. I want them to be able to see those things. Or it's, hey, I want to become more vocal in communicating, be more confident and authoritative, something I'm going to be working on. Would you ask me about how I'm doing in that area
Mm.
occasionally? So that right there kind of wraps up, okay, this book, there's going to be moments. There's action to get movement, but if there's no accountability, it doesn't mean anything's going to happen.
Mm. That was a mic drop right there, Tim. Moment, movement, momentum, and then accountability. My goodness, I can see the visual in my head, Tim. Wow. Yeah, Tim, one question I like to ask authors is what was the most difficult chapter for you to write? And just inviting the listeners in on the creative process. But what was the most difficult chapter for you to write where you knew that maybe you had to pen some tough things, or maybe you had to share a story like, never shared that one before. Um, but then you knew if you did put it in the book that, like you said, you have a chance to influence and create a light bulb moment and help be a catalyst for change for someone. So what was that for you?
I think probably one of the most challenging and probably the most rewarding was in there's three sections in the book. Be all in. There's a couple of chapters. There's I think four chapters on what it means to be real.
Hmm.
You got to be responsible. You got to be excellent. The third one in there is be authentic.
Mm,
And as I'm that one for me was really I can make an impact and be authentically who I am and not try to be somebody that I think I need to be.
mm,
That one for me was okay, how am I going to build a chapter around being authentic to who you are, being true to who you are and not someone else? And as I worked through that chapter, I realized, you know what, there's been stories in my life that have impacted who I am today. But I really haven't thought a lot. I hadn't thought a lot about those stories and about the people and the things that have impacted me. And
mm,
it made me who I am today. As I worked on that chapter, that one probably impacted me the most and gave me the most confidence in
mm,
who I am, that I can be more confident. I can be more bold. I can be more everything if I lean in to my unique characteristics, you know? I've got strengths. You've got strengths. I've got weaknesses. And I found out that the more I talk as John talks, the more I make fun of myself, the more influence I have with people.
yeah.
So for me, that chapter about, hey, being real, be true to yourself, and be okay with talking about the stuff that's not so good is
Mm,
okay. That gives us confidence. And it helps other people go, hey, you're like that? Yeah, me too, right? That's what pulls people
hmm.
in.
Yeah, that's good. I'm reminded, Tim, one of my mentors says if you want to impress people, share only your wins. But if you want to impact people, share your losses and your hardships. So that I appreciate you bringing that back up because you're right. It's like, oh man, he struggles. They struggle with that too. That kind of sounds like me. And back to what your father-in-law said.
Yeah,
And I know you can do it.
absolutely. Yeah, I am forever grateful for the mentors that I've had and that I have today. Again, I'm grateful I wouldn't be here had I not had someone that saw something in me that I didn't see in myself and
Hmm.
really impressed in me that I could be more. I could do more. I could achieve more. I could have more than I believed I could have. So,
Hmm.
yeah, I'm grateful, man.
Tim, you have given us so many nuggets of wisdom. You have certainly created moments, movement, and what I feel is momentum. I know for me, for sure, just in our conversation, where can people um, buy the book, get a copy? Can they get it in bulk? Where can they find it? Because now I'm sure by now they're like, man, I got to get a hold of this thing.
Yeah, yeah, pretty easy to do. You can find me at timnovak.com. All you have to do is go to Amazon, search Remarkable Influence, and it's there. The audio book will be up within the next few days. I just finished recording that within the last week and a half. So the audiobook will be there. The Kindle and the paperback are there today. You can pick those up. Just search Remarkable Influence, and you can find everything you need to know about it right there, Jason.
Absolutely. Well, Tim, we know that the author hat is one of many that you wear. You're also a speaker and a coach. So before we go, just talk a little bit about the work that you do with individuals, and if there's anything exciting coming up in 2026, like a workshop. Are you hitting the road for a book tour? What else is going on in the life of Tim Novak, and how else do you bring value to those
Yeah,
you serve?
great question. Yes, I work with companies all over the world, both live and virtually. And one of the things that I discovered really in 2020 when we were all confined is I started thinking into what am I really passionate about in life and not just who I want to work with. I work with large companies. I work with some companies that you would certainly know the name of that are very large companies. I work with executives and coach them all over the world and speak. And what I'm passionate about is cars, golf, and music.
Hmm.
So over the last several years, those have become some of my biggest clients are people in the golf world,
Hmm.
people in the automotive world, and people that aren't necessarily musicians. They teach music. So I'm passionate about those things. Those have become clients of mine. But again, I have all kinds of industries that I work with, private equity firms. I work with sales organizations, manufacturers, IT tech companies. So I do that. And my wife and I actually founded a children's theater here in Austin 10 years ago, Christian Youth Theater Austin. And we work with kids 8 to 18. And we do classes and full stage productions for kids 8 to 18. And we are really working to develop leadership and character with the youth of today. So, my wife is the primary founder of that nonprofit. I work with that organization as well as what I do as a speaker, coach, and trainer. And it's amazing to get to work with people all over the world at all different ages.
I love that, using your head and heart and the gifts that God has given you and your wife. Well, folks, that you know where to find all the resources. We'll have Tim's book, website links all in the show notes. FortifiedLifePodcast.com, JerichoForce.com/podcast. Tim, I can't tell you how awesome this convo was. We'll definitely have to bring you back because I think we've only scratched the surface with certain topics. So we'd love to have you back on the show.
Well, that'd be an honor, Jason. Thank you so much for having me today. My best to you and your listeners.
Absolutely. Well, folks, once again, this has been a tools and resources episode of the Fortified Life podcast. Guest Tim Novak, his brand new book, Remarkable Influence. You can get a copy on Amazon and wherever books are sold, and grab your copy today. And like Tim said, don't just have the golden nugget moment of an aha. Feel empowered, challenged, and inspired to do something. And as Tim alluded through his story, and we know you can do it. That's all we have time for here on the Fortified Life, folks. You know how we leave things. Don't compartmentalize your faith in the marketplace. And from the boardroom to the bathroom, God is with you. Make sure you like, share, and subscribe to the podcast on YouTube at The Fortified Life. And listen and leave a positive review on the podcast platform of your choice, Apple, Spotify, iHeartRadio. We'd greatly appreciate it. We'll see you next time on the Fortified Life podcast.